Welcome, bro, to Binge Eating 101. My name is Anton. I have a PhD in having a binge eating addiction from 2016 to 2026. I'm 3 months clean, and in this video, I want to explain why you have a binge eating problem and what are the actionable steps that you should take in order to stop ruining your life and live a healthier, happy, fulfilling life and get your dream physique, just like I am right now. So let's begin with the brain. Now, this is the most important part. So, in our brain, we have two aspects, the upper brain and the lower brain. Now, the upper brain is involved in making critical and logical decisions that we as men are designed to do. So, for example, you logically and critically decide what you're going to plan out for today. For example, it could be a workout, it could be homework, it could be school. You made a logical decision instead of an emotional one, where that's mostly what females usually do. So, other than that, we have the lower part of the brain. And that lower part of the brain is designed to be a survival mechanism. So, it's designed for pleasure, pain, temporary escape, the fight or flight response. All of that is related to the lower brain. So every single day, whenever you have an urge to have a binge eating event to occur, you get this urge, and something triggers in your brain saying, "Hey, we feel bad, or we feel some kind of emotion, or we are stressed, and we need some way to relieve it." And you probably know what I'm talking about because I also get that urge. And that urge comes from the lower part of the brain. It's telling us, hey, man, we don't feel good right now. We need something to make us feel happy and remove this pain. So what do? We see food as a way to comfort it. So we eat food, and that could be processed food. For me, it's like ice cream, cookies, pizza, junk food, essentially, right? I eat it. I feel happy. The lower part of the brain is happy. Everyone's happy. But of course, the next day, I feel like shit. I'm shameful of what I did. I feel guilty, and I can't even look in the mirror because of my fucking stomach size. You can relate as well. So, how do we fix this scenario? Well, I usually treat the lower part of the brain whenever I get an urge to eat as a child asking for candy, right? If a child asks you for candy, you give him a candy bar, you give him a Hershey chocolate bar, you give him Skittles or Kit Kat, whatever. He's happy, you're happy. But the next day, if the child asks for candy again, and this time you give him two Skittle bars, you give him Doritos, you give him pizza, and you give him takeout food as well, now that child thinks that, hey, this is normal, so I believe the next day should be the same thing. So what happens the next day when you get an urge to binge eat? Well, you eat again a lot of food, like 5,000 calories, because the day earlier, that child thought that that amount is normal to what you're eating. So again, you binge eat. So now you might be asking, like, okay, so how do I stop this from happening? Well, that's the upper part of the brain. The only way to stop this is through habit because of years and years of making a habit of seeing food as a way to remove pleasure. I mean, to gain pleasure and remove some pain, we have to break this habit. But how do we do it? The only way that I found is actually whenever that child is asking you for candy, you just got to ignore it, man. I know it's hard, but the only reason we're binge eating is because we don't want to deal with the emotions that we're facing. We don't want to feel sad. We don't want to feel stressed. We don't want to have any pain in our lives. So we quickly eat food, consume it as fast as possible, and then when we gain pleasure, remove the pain, and we feel good. But the reality is we just have to sit with the fucking emotions, man. We're fucking human. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be stressed. If you're making progress and you're just living life, man, and you're just embracing the emotions, then whenever the child asks for a candy bar, you can tell him, fuck off, not today. I'm the adult. I make a logical or critical decision. I understand that right now I'll feel better, I'll remove the pain, and I'll get amazing pleasure. But the next day, I'm going to have shame, I'm going to have guilt, I won't like myself, and I'm going to be guilty. And you know what happens? You're going to relapse again, and you're going to binge eat the next day as well. So, this is the most important part. Whenever you get an urge, just think about a little child asking you for candy, and you all you have to tell him is no, not today. I will not have a candy. If he keeps asking you for candy and you have the sweet tooth, have a Diet Coke, man. Have a Diet Pepsi. Maybe have two of them. I sometimes buy a whole fucking 2 liter of Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi. I know it's not considered healthy, quote unquote, but compared to that versus me like eating a lot of processed food, a lot of chips, a lot of cookies, a lot of ice cream, I think a 2 liter Diet Coke or 2 liter Diet Pepsi is worthwhile for me, and it satisfies the urge. It makes the little child be happy, and I'm happy as well because the sweet tooth is gone. So the most important question is, again, Use logical and critical decision whenever you get the urge to binge eat, and if you can't control it, have an alternative. So for me, again, sweets is Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi. Something savory, I usually do carrots, or I've been experimenting also like baby tomatoes as well. They're really filling, and as well, you chew a lot of it, and it subconsciously makes your brain think, hey, we're already full. Another thing you can do is like mint or gum. So like throughout the day, if you're hungry, pop a mint, bro. If you're still hungry, pop a gum that has like artificial sugar in it. It's still safe, and plus you're gonna satisfy the urge so you don't binge it again. So the only thing you have to know is just the lower part of the brain is mainly for the survival mechanism. It's designed for you to feel pleasure and remove some pain, while the upper brain is mostly used for critical thinking and logical decisions. But what happens to us is we build a habit with the little child, and we give them so much power that we cannot critically and logically decide on what we're doing. So that's why it feels like sometimes when we binge eat, it feels like we're being controlled by a demon because we're not actually in the present moment. So that leads me to trauma, right? So again, trauma is something that we experienced when we were little. It was a painful moment that we never really resolved in our adulthood, and it built up a lot of negative energy and stored energy inside of us, which leads to a lot of problems that could be impactful to other people, and it could be also self-sabotage that we also face. So how do we actually fix this trauma? Well, trauma is actually just a little child of yours who's asking for help and he's asking for closure. And you, as the big adult, you should actually accept them. But how do we accept them? Well, we actually have to relive the trauma that we experienced. For example, for me, my dad was an alcoholic and he was violent to my mom when we were little. Now, those images in my brain that I remember, I always do not want to because they were painful and it was probably the worst moment of my life. But if I acknowledge that my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was, wasn't doing that great, but I tell my little self like, "Hey man, you're alive right now. You're 24 years old. The things happened in the past, but they made you into a better person because now you don't drink alcohol, you're not addicted to it or anything like that." So all you got to do is just heal your inner child. That's all he wants. He just wants to be heard. He just wants to be accepted and he wants to be safe. So if you do have a traumatic experience, try your best to relive that moment, but telling yourself that, hey, I'm safe, I'm okay, everything is okay, I feel good, and that's the only way to do it. Another thing is that you could also do is meditation. So I highly recommend meditation for trauma, but especially for being in the present moment and being mindful of what you're doing. Because a lot of times when we get an urge to binge eat, we usually start eating food without actually being mindful of what we're doing. So, for example, if I buy a lot of chips, a lot of ice cream, a lot of cookies, I just stuff everything in my face without actually enjoying the taste, without chewing it very slowly, without just embracing what I'm eating and being grateful. A lot of times, if I don't meditate, I'm not really mindful of how many calories I'm eating or what ingredients I'm putting into my body, which could affect my testosterone. It could affect my future health, everything like that. So meditation for 5 to 10 minutes. If you can't do 5 minutes, just start at 30 seconds, and all you gotta do is breathe through your nose and breathe with your mouth out, and close your eyes. And whenever you get a thought about something, just go back to the breath. The more you do it, the more you're going to be more mindful, the more calm you're going to be and peaceful. Like, for example, if you drive a car and, for example, you're in a traffic, like there's traffic and you're driving a car, you'll actually see other people get angry and pissed off. But since you meditated, you're calm and peaceful, man. Like the traffic is just there. Just it's like a wave, bro. Like a wave goes up and a wave goes down, and you're just riding the wave while everyone else is trying to force their way inside the wave. And that's not how you live life, man. That's how you get cortisol stress. That's how you reduce your lifespan, everything like that. So I highly recommend meditation. Another thing is emotion. So, like I mentioned before, we don't really want to face our emotions a lot because when we feel sad or angry or stressed out, we see food as a way to comfort it right away and we remove those feelings. But the alternative is actually dealing with those emotions, feeling it, embracing it. Like, why are you fucking sad? Like, why are you angry? Why are you stressed? Like, just embrace it. You're fucking human. Especially if you're a man, you're a masculine man. It's good to have those fucking emotions than being a feminine man that has nothing. So, in terms of emotions, when you get those sparks of anger, sad, and stressed out, do not see food as a way to comfort it right away. Try your best to prolong it as much as possible. And what you should do instead is actually journal. So, whenever you actually feel that you are feeling sad, write down, why do you feel sad today? What made this event happen to you? Do you really want food as a way to solve this problem? Is there anything else? Is it okay to be sad? How is your body feel? How is your body feeling? How is your, you know, how is your mental state? What happens if you don't binge eat today? What happens if you do not eat food to solve this sadness, or will just go away? These are the questions that you should be asking yourself and journaling, because the more you journal, the more data you'll actually have, and the more you can see a pattern that says, hey, if I'm sad, this is why I'm sad, and this is why I see food as a way to as a way to cope with my sadness. So therefore, I binge eat. But now, because I feel sad, this is how my body is feeling. I felt sad because of XYZ, but if I don't eat food and I find an alternative, for example, then I could satisfy my urge, I could satisfy the inner child, and I could also live with the emotions, but also at the same time understand that just because I'm feeling an emotion does not mean that I have to binge eat. Okay? So the next thing is habit. So every single day you should be doing this, especially if you want to stop binge eating. Always journal what you're feeling, especially when you get an urge to binge eat, and also meditate, because 5 to 10 minutes a day will literally help you just be more mindful of what you're doing. And before you go to the store, and you grab the bag of chips, you actually read the ingredients and look at the calories, and then you logically and critically decide from the upper brain if you actually want to eat the food. If you logically and critically decide that you still want a bag of chips, then do it. But do not fucking do it under emotions. Do not give the little child more power over you. You're the fucking man. You're the god of your body and brain. So you can decide if this is the right thing for you. Now, the last thing is partner. So I believe having an accountability partner is the most important part, especially stopping binge eating, especially if somebody who had a prior binge eating experience or is currently dealing with one. You guys can be accountable to one another. You guys can talk about your feelings. You can talk about how, like, the urges to binge eat, because you guys can relate to one another. If you talk to a random person about binge eating, they're not going to fucking understand you, bro. All they're going to say is like, hey, man, yeah, just stop eating the food. Or like, oh, if you feel sad, just go hit the fucking gym. No, bro, like that doesn't fucking work. You have to talk to someone. You have to build a connection. You have to feel that the other person understands you truly, and that's the only way for you to grow and actually stop this cycle. So the last thing is time. So this will take time, right? I'm coming from a binging prior for like 10 years. I'm 3 months clean, but who knows if I will relapse and what will happen afterwards. But I'm trying my best not to. I'm trying to hold myself accountability with this YouTube channel and social media. I want to help other young men stop binging for good. So essentially, depending on how long you have a binging problem and how long you build a habit with the lower brain of giving pleasure and removing pain once you feel an emotion through food, it will take time, man. And it's okay if you relapse, right? If you do relapse one time, it's fine. As long as you're making progress, as long as you're making a habit of journaling everything down, understanding why you binge eat, as long as you're trying to fix your inner child and fixing your trauma, as long as you're meditating, as long as you're, feeling the emotions that you're currently facing without right away removing it, and as long as you have somebody that you can talk to and relate to, you're making progress and you're on the right fucking track. So hopefully in this video, I explained why you have a binging problem and what are the necessary steps that you should be taking in order to stop it and actually live a fulfilling and happy life and get your fucking dream physique. But it will take time, and just be patient and trust the process.